Welcome once again to Squares of the Round Table. I'm Jonathan Ivan Rivera, and of course you're here with us once again to discuss everything that's anything here on our program, be it toys, be it movies, be it pop culture, be it whatever is on our minds, along with my partners here.
Me, Mike Boyle. Hi!
Hey Mike, it's Chuck Stein,
Yo.
and welcome to Squares of the Round Table podcast this week. Gentlemen, where do we want to start?
Well, let's just get to round it up. As far as rounding up, we're rounding this table. We'll go around the table, see how everyone's week was. Ivan, let's start with you. You're the host today. You're the host with the most. How was your week? How was your All Hallows Eve?
Well, the week started off with quite the bang from all ends. I had a couple of friends, and that's Jethro Jones and Janet O'Hare, and with John and myself, we hosted a Northern Soul Weekender, and the Northern Soul Weekender was filled with much hilarity, much fun, much dancing, and all kinds of wonderful things at the Electric Jungle, 1768 West Greenleaf. And the people, they danced, and they had a great time. We had 11 disc jockeys from Europe who came and they spun with us, many of them legendary from the weekend casinos and the nightlife that is the Northern Soul scene. Okay, Jethro Jones wrote a book called They Danced All Night, and which has been selling briskly on Amazon Books, which was a first-hand account from his journals about the scene that took place in the Northern Soul all-nighter plan. And I got to see for myself just what it was all about. And yes, everything that you have heard about Northern Soul dancers and DJs is absolutely true. They are a boundless, they are a untired group of people that live and breathe and dance for the music. It's the most amazing thing. And with that, they each had their own set of tunes that they themselves got bragging rights to, as they would pass the mic from one to the next, stating the situation. Well, I paid this much for this cut, and now I'm sharing it with you. I got this cut from where? This is the one that's going to send you out on the floor. This is going to floor fill you. It was a wonderful, wonderful night. And that was because also, too, we were the climax to an all-week situation that was happening in Detroit, which, of course, the Detroit A-Go-Go was where it all began, and it was a continuous nonstop party for almost 6 days. And it climaxed over at our place, the Electric Jungle, and it was wonderful. I mean, friends from the store, friends from the arcade, all of our people, along with guest stars, Ruby Andrews of Casanova music fame, and with Chuck Bernard and Ronaldo Domino, which all three of them have made records that are now coveted by the Northern Soul scene. And they were there in person, taking pictures, commiserating with all of the guests. It was the most stellar time. It was really, really, really something. So, and we started off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and did not end till 4 o'clock in the morning. And with that, also at the helm was R.H. Garland of the Windy City Soul Club, who has had a soul club here at the Empty Bottle on Western in Chicago for 10 years, celebrating 10 years, November 24th. And with that, it just is a whole culture, if you will, the Northern Soul scene. And getting to see it for myself was the most exhilarating, exciting, and most wondrous event that I've ever got a chance to witness. So it was really, really very cool. And this was on Tuesday night, which by Wednesday morning, when I got home at 5:30 in the morning, I was couch bound till the following day when I went to go to do the jazz suite over at Cafe Mustache that Thursday night.
You say you slept through Halloween?
Pretty much.
That's That's what happens when you climax, Ivan.
Yeah, pretty much. And let me tell you, will I do it again? Absolutely. Everyone expressed interest in wanting to do it all over again for next year, so I won't be the least bit surprised if people are already starting to save their money and getting themselves together and just getting ready for this wonderful event. It was really class A stuff. And I got to hear some music that I ain't never heard, but just no less exciting and just, all the way around. It was great.
And you met a bunch of people who flew over the pond to come to this event?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Jimmy Knowles of Wigan, and a number of others. There's just so many of them. And I was just excited to watch them do their thing. And John and I and Allison and all of us at the Electric Jungle got to do a great many things. We served up drinks. We went ahead and we catered to everybody, and everybody was happy. Mighty Dijon Holiday came by, the Superhero Soul, and he danced on our floor, and not to mention that most of these people were just on their feet and just out there just doing it. It's just amazing to me, and they are just the nicest people. They are so genuinely good people to be around. The vibe was so cool. And it was really worth all the work that got put into it. So I have to say, I want to thank everybody who came to the event, and of course, kudos to John and Jethro and Janet and Elson and everyone that put the thing together, and me just running around just trying to put a wire here and clip a thing here and put up a thing there. So it worked out really, really well. I was real happy. And, yeah, pretty much slept through Halloween. I was just, relegated to the sofa and didn't move around too much. I was too worn out because I was out there dancing, too. And besides going into the basement, leading people into the basement because we had records for sale. Nick, we had another vendor downstairs with us, too, so I was keeping him some company, and we just talked about all manner of things. John Forbes came by. Like I said, a lot of different people, just I could go on and on and on. There was just too many to name, but everybody showed up, and it was great. It was really, really good. That's pretty much what happened. And the jazz thing that happened on Thursday was a thing we called the Jazz Suite. My friend Drew and I were known as the Pizza Brothers, and we did our thing over at Cafe Mustache, along with an extraordinary band that played that set as well. It was just really cool. We got to play all manner of jazz jams, from Mingus to Monk to Fats Waller to Coleman Hawkins to everyone in between. It was just really, really cool. Friday, made my way to Mathers, and then ended up playing the oldie but goodies in the afternoon till finally coming to Friday night, just finally got to relax and take things easy until Sunday with the Layback Wayback Lounge playing all manner of jazzy different sounds, which also met up with a couple of our friends from Mathers, Mary Ann and Melissa and myself. And then after we got done there, we went to Lou Malnati's Pizza and had some deep dish. Yes. Salad and garlic bread and chicken wings, all manner of good food. By the time the night was over, it was like plop on the couch watching movies on the U, which tripped me out that they were actually running the Blue Lagoon in an actual family spot. And then another movie called Kiss the Bride, which was really very good. By that time, though, after all was said and done, we just were out. And then just leads me into this morning where, just did the regular layback here and just messing with the stereo here. Got my turntables and my sound situation set back up again finally after the wedding I did last week, so I had an opportunity to actually put my system back together. So, yeah, in a little while, in the show, I'll do a little thing called the Music Row, which I'll open up to questions and such in a little bit. So there's my week. How about you, Mike?
Well, I got my sleep back, recovered from TFCon, opened a couple of my figures. I read Life of Captain Marvel #4 in that series. It makes a little bit more sense as to not just how Carol inherited her powers rather than just got them by the accident when this alien machine explodes. I prefer that idea rather just her being just a victim of circumstance. She was part of Hereditary, like her mother was Kree. So that made sense to me. Let's see. Yeah, it had Halloween. Of course, I carved my pumpkin because I had to get those pumpkin seeds. I baked them. It was perfect. I had just last year, I remember I just let them soak. Like when you get a right bunch of pumpkin seeds to munch on, you get it just right. Wonderful. I had only about 20 trick-or-treaters. The weather was good, but we didn't get too many trick-or-treaters. Watched Beetlejuice. That movie's been around for 30 years now.
Yeah. Sweet toast.
That's right. Hey, notices the B word. And what else? I think that's it, really. Oh, yeah, and of course, Friday, Jeff and I will talk about Bohemian Rhapsody later. I bought my tickets to see the Fathom Events 40th anniversary of Superman, the original. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go see that. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, it'll be the uncut version, not the Donner cut, but just it'll have the extra footage that I've always saw when it aired on TV. They had some deleted scenes. So, hopefully it'll be good. Of course it'll be good. I know they just recently put it out in 4K. I'm not sure a 40-year-old movie is going to look all that much better in 4K. Not that I have a means of playing 4K, but yeah, I had a great week. Like I said, I just finally got caught up on my sleep, and I'm just getting these youngins can't keep up with these youngsters with these conventions no more. I got to take it a little slower next time. Not that I injured myself, but just the aches and pains. I'm getting old. Well, I'm good though. Jeff, how about you? How was your week?
Well, I started a war.
A war?
I did.
We're going to war, son.
Well, it started on the 1st of the month because I'm tired of Christmas trying to take over November. So I have started the hashtag Turkey Strong, hashtag War on Thanksgiving. Someone has to defend Thanksgiving from the people who want Christmas now. So I have taken it upon myself to do this and stop these individuals from trying to do this and doing what I can to make this world a better place. For I do not believe that Christmas should be talked about until the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and Santa comes down the street. But that's just me. I have a feeling I'm fighting a losing battle. I'm thinking if I could get Trump involved, maybe he would help me. Because it's an American holiday.
It is. It's a true American holiday.
And we, maybe it's because I'm a fat guy, but it's a food holiday, and I like food. And
I like food too.
And there's family, and there's football. It's the three important F's of America, or America.
Murica, yes.
Yeah. So those are important, and I feel as though they have been neglected here in America right these days. We gotta do something about that.
Yeah, I agree. And now you've seen the stores are already leaking, quote unquote, leaking their Black Friday ads.
Oh yeah.
That's no shocker. There's no coincidence there.
Yeah. So I've started my war. I have tried to make this clear that this is unacceptable. I so far I am not winning the battles, nor am I winning the war, but we're giving this a shot. I'm hoping we can, the Squares at the Round Table podcast will go ahead and endorse the war on Thanksgiving and stop there from being a war on Thanksgiving because
push back the frontiers.
Yes, push back the frontier. Wait, this is important. But yeah, let's see what else this past week. I did get a chance to see The Spy Who Dumped Me off of, which is Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon, and that was, I saw it on Comcast. They finally had it available for rent, and it looked interesting when it went into the theaters. That said, I'm really glad I did not spend a lot of money on that. It's got a lot of potential, and I think the people who are in it are good, but they could have been funnier, and it could have been more interesting, and it just doesn't. It decides to go a different direction than that, and that's too bad. Because I think there's a place for where I thought that it was going to go, which would have been kind of a absent-minded, entertaining type of movie where, you know, it's and where it's kind of more from a woman's perspective of the absent-mindedness kind of thing meets 007 situation, and I thought that would have been fun, but it's a decent watch. I wouldn't spend more than, like I said, you know, if it's on, great. If you want to rent it for $5-6, okay. Or if it's on the Netflix, I have no idea if it is or it isn't these days. But yeah, I mean, it was entertaining for 2 hours. I just thought it could have been better than that. So I'm trying to think of anything else this past week. Well, obviously I had Midwest Speaking Professionals on Sunday, so anybody who's obviously looking to be a professional presenter, we meet on the first and third Sundays from 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. So we'd love having you guys. We're into week 2 of we're starting week 2 of the Nutrisystem stuff. It's been on and off. There's been some ups and some downs, but we're getting there. And I've been trying to do some Facebook Lives every day with different things. So, like I said, it's kind of crazy, and you know, I've got a couple of things coming up that could be very, very interesting. But that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, stick with it, Jeff. We're with you. We stand behind you.
Yes.
I don't know
your Nutrisystem and the war, especially the war on Thanksgiving.
Now, I don't know if it's such a good idea to stand behind me. There was one day where whatever it is was the type of food, I just wouldn't have stood behind me that day. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have stood behind me. If you stood behind me, you might have died.
Understood.
Yes.
Yep.
Alongside. It will stand alongside you.
Yes.
Maybe even a little upwind.
Yeah, upwind. Yeah. Upwind for sure.
Okay.
By the way, I have important news.
Important news. Breaking news.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Spice Girls have announced the reunion tour.
Okay.
Without Posh.
Without Beckham.
Poshless?
Yes.
Is there a new Posh? Or just deleting Posh?
You know, that was my comment on it, Mike, was here's a great opportunity to get back some relevance. Why not do like a reality show where they're looking for like, I wouldn't say the 5th Spice Girl. You're not replacing Posh, but, you know, add a Spice Girl. You know, okay, make her Spice Girl number 6. And you could do that, and it could be a TV show, and it would get them back into some relevancy for millennials and those who are younger who might not be as aware of the Spice Girls. And maybe it would get a new audience for them, but guess not.
So we could go ahead and look for cumin spice, or we could look for bay leaf spice.
Oh,
Halloween's over, so we can't go for pumpkin spice.
I was going to say, no, pumpkin spice would probably be right there.
Spice Girls reunion. Is it strictly, have they started a tour, or?
It's a tour. They're doing a reunion tour.
Okay.
But it's not, but with no Posh.
And meanwhile, Kiss is on their last reunion tour in the last 20 years.
I was going to say, are you sure?
Yeah, or they're just going to keep going like the Rolling Stones.
Or Cher. Wasn't Cher supposed to be done too? Or some of these people were like, oh, well, that's it, this is the last one, and then they come back through again, and you're like, what in the hell?
I don't know, are they all screaming because they need the money, or just that they're bored and they've got nothing else better to do?
Or they start throwing, I mean, considering how much ticket prices are these days, you know, I hate to say it, it's like, well, we'll throw millions of dollars at you. Okay. Sure, why not?
Is the tour in the UK right now, or are they doing some US dates?
No, they've just announced that they're going to do it.
Okay.
I don't think they've gotten that far.
They got no dates yet.
No dates. Hey, speaking of where was I going with this? I actually had a good transition, and now it's gone. So I'm just going to say it. Talk about bait and switch last night with Walking Dead. I didn't watch it, but did you see all of the stuff with this now?
No. What happened with, was it Rick Grimes who was his last episode?
Yeah, it's the last, it was supposed to be the last episode with Rick Grimes, and because Andrew Lincoln's leaving the show. Well, guess what? And then they come out and announce that Andrew Lincoln has signed a 3-picture deal with AMC to do 3 Rick Grimes movies.
Okay.
So all of this talk about what's gonna happen?
We'll miss you, Rick Grimes.
Yeah, we'll miss you so much. And then it's like, hey, guess what?
Huh.
Not dead. Not only not dead, starting an entire new line of and I guess they're gonna be on AMC. They're not going to like the theaters. They're just gonna be like AMC movies for Walking Dead, and it sounds like they're going to try to expand their universe, so to speak, around that with other characters as well. So it's like, I mean, there's a part of me where I'm like, hey, good for them, but I do feel like they kind of led the audience on, and it's like, here's supposed to be this big moment, and no, not only does he not die, it almost just feels like a ratings ploy.
That's what it feels like to me. But I don't know, this Walking Dead stuff, is this fandom kind of crested or not? I mean,
I don't know. That's kind of the other question, too.
I don't follow it. I have a couple of friends who do, and it's like, well...
I think it's pretty much had its fill.
I'm
the wrong guy to talk to about Walking Dead.
Well, I'll be honest. I've stopped watching quite a few seasons ago. And the only reason I stopped watching is I'm not sure that it's what I want to see from an episodic television show in terms of a drama, which is at some point the show became, okay, this is the new normal. This is the new normal, and nothing is going to ever change. At no point does civilization come back. At no point is there a chance for somebody to get to happily ever after. I hadn't seen anybody trying to get a cure. Now, in fairness, I haven't watched it quite a few seasons now, but I don't think that that's happened since either. Like, ever since that one episode in the first season where they go to the CDC, and it's like, hopeless, we're done. And I don't know, I think that works for comic books. And I think there's ways to tell interesting stories about that. But I think after a while, this just gets to kind of feel like, okay, you're just retreading. When does something new and interesting happen? And when I say that, I mean from an overall, where is this going in terms of where they're going in the future as a show? And maybe I'm sure people are sitting there saying, well, there is a direction, and it's about these characters and how they survive and what they do. Yeah, I guess I just want more. Does that make sense?
It does from a viewer standpoint, but there's also the ones like they're just fascinated. It's a good character study.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like waiting. It could be any episode where somebody gets killed.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that's the one good part about this show is that, you know, anybody can get killed, and they usually do. And that I don't think that that's a horrible thing, but I do, like I said, I think that this works well with where it came from originally, which is if you basically sit there and go, okay, this is your universe, this is what it is, and I'm basing everything around this, like the comic book, then it makes a little bit more sense. But at some point, I guess in TV, at some point, maybe I'm still looking for happy endings or something too much. Maybe that's what it is. I just don't.
Well, this obviously is the wrong show to be looking for that.
Right. Well, it's like, I just feel like they've lost the part where it's like, okay, I mean, other than the fact that it's like there have been times where people have tried to create societies amongst these societies and fiefdoms and whatnot, but it just doesn't seem like there's anything beyond that. Now, in fairness, like I said, I haven't watched in a few seasons, but I don't know. And I'm with you, Ivan. I think that it's gotten to a point, but I think that their audience is still big enough that I think that they're still going to get people.
Well, it just it's like with a lot of things where you're going to have, in the beginning, you have the major viewing situation with such a series, and then unless you keep the consistency of a story going on and on and on, is just how you're going to keep your people watching a particular show. But I see the decline, and I don't hear a lot of people talking much about The Walking Dead as I once did.
Yeah.
It's like what happened with the Game of Thrones. I mean, that had its moment, and then now do you hear people talking about the Game of Thrones? No, not really.
Well, now they're in its final season, and now they're planning a prequel series that'll take place before the books.
Yeah, which is just another in my opinion, I just think it's another jump the shark moment to try to keep an otherwise expired franchise alive. When you start going that route of prequels and then whatever other things that they could come up with, alternate story lines and such like that.
Well, it's still AMC's bread and butter, and they tried Fear the Walking Dead, and I don't think that was as successful.
But it's still out there, and they still do it.
Yeah.
Well, if they have that type of if they still have that type of financial father to do that, then who am I to say not to do it?
Right. I think that they're getting enough of an audience, and I'm curious to see. I don't know. It's one of those where I'm curious. I'm with you, Ivan. I'm curious to see if there's really this much of an appetite for this much Walking Dead product. I'm not sure. I think you're right. I think it's hit a level, and I think that the other part is you've already, in some ways, you've diluted the product a little bit. You created Fear of the Walking Dead because you thought you could create a second show. And at the time, it made sense. But I don't know what the numbers look like. I haven't looked at the numbers. I know they're down. I don't know what that means compared to everything else. And keep that in mind, too, guys. When we're talking about, the numbers are down. But what do the numbers look like versus everything else that's out there? And
this is still AMC's bread and butter.
Right. And again, if their numbers are still better than what else is out there for those time frames, and again, I don't know what they're getting because they're replaying it a lot now on TV, on their AMC channel. They replay it an awful lot now. So I'm kind of curious about what they're getting during the day on those day parts when they run like multiple episodes back to back to back like that, if you know what I mean.
Or it could be just an attempt to try to still keep it in the public eye in the hopes that it won't drop off, and in the hopes that more people will catch it because they didn't catch it in its initial time slot. So
right.
They figure if they run it enough that somewhere along the line new people are going to actually hook onto it. Also, too, as far as like merchandising, which is also a big thing that plays into that as well. I mean, does The Walking Dead, sell out of any of the merchandising, or is there a lot of peg warming going on?
No, I think the merchandising, they, keep in mind, Ivan, at the end of the day, I think the comics are coming back too. I think they're doing new comics again. I think the merchandise is okay. I think the merchandise is doing all right.
But where does it get to the part where it starts like you're whipping a dead horse after a while?
I don't know. Well, there are people who ask that question about Star Wars. There are people who are asking that question about Marvel. They're waiting for the Marvel bubble.
Yeah, of course. It's the debate that happens with such things.
Right. And that's out there, which is, when's the Marvel bubble going to burst? I don't know. I don't have a real good answer. I don't have a real good answer to that question. Right now, the Marvel bubble isn't even close to bursting. But that can change. Look at what happened with Star Wars, which is,
But in relation to, Star Wars, which is of its own franchise build, against what Marvel does in the multiple story idiom, where there are always characters being created, there's always stories being done, there's always things happening, whereas with Star Wars or Star Trek or with something that has been around at length, should I say, series of legacy, where it's been around a long time, several generations, if you will, against the ever-evolving Marvel and the ever-evolving situation with the other types of entertainment. I mean, you think that in other words, you get to thinking, how many times can we reinvent characters? How many times can we reinvent planes and reinvent situations until we've exhausted everything to a point of, saturation or worse, oversaturation, where people are just like, oh, I'm so sick of it now.
Well, I think we're starting to see that in the ABC series and the Netflix series. That's where Marvel is showing its weakest links.
Well, and it's funny because that dovetails to something else that happened in the last week, which is there's now talk that they're going to do essentially a Winter Soldier Falcon. I don't know if it's a full series or a limited series or how they're going to do it for Disney Play. And the interesting part about that is, to me, is that this is now the third series that they've talked about like this. They've talked about one for Scarlet Witch. They've talked about one for Loki. And it's interesting because, like you just said, Mike, it looks like the TV shows on ABC are going to go bye-bye. And it looks like the Netflix shows are going to leave. Or they're going to be done. Because from what I can gather, they're saying that that it's possible that the numbers, even for the new Daredevil, which I've heard good things for, aren't what they once were when they first started, or they're not getting the buzz that they used to. So to me, it's going to be interesting because really, Marvel TV, they some people like it, some people don't. But really in reality, once those shows go, all that's left is Cloak and Dagger on Freeform and Runaways on Hulu. That's it. Unless you're going to go to Disney Play. And it seems like when they went to go to Disney Play, they've decided to go and they've decided to use a lot of the movie characters and go that route. So we'll see. I'm with you. I don't know what's going to happen with this. But to Ivan's point, I think what's interesting is that, Ivan, what's different about the Marvel universe is that you have a lot of different characters that do a lot of different things. And so as a result, you can kind of change up their worlds a little bit.
You got flexibility.
Well, like for example, the world of Black Panther is very different from the world of Ant-Man, which is very different than the world of Steve Rogers or the world of Iron Man. And because, they're all in the same universe, but what happens there is very, very different. And there's enough where you can do your own thing. Star Wars tried to do that. It's unfortunate that it didn't seem to work as well as I would like it to. But to your point, that's where The Walking Dead's got a problem. Because at the end of the day, The Walking Dead is based in an apocalyptic world with zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, can you do what Marvel does with, like for example, Black Panther has a distinct different look, and it's an entirely different world versus something like Ant-Man where it's more of a comedy. Okay, how are you doing The Walking Dead as a comedy?
Well, see, some things don't have that crossover potential as other things. So, can you sit there and arrange its parts to retrofit into other areas or into other stories. Sometimes you can, most times you can't, because it doesn't allow for that because of the story build. So that's why, with the whole Walking Dead thing and the prequel thing, it's going to be just like the Star Wars thing and then the prequels in the Star Wars thing, which then, we're
going to have Gungans in The Walking Dead?
We're looking for zombies.
No pod racing before the zombies show up.
These have got floppy ears.
No, we hear you, Ivan. We're just, like I said, we don't know, and like I said, I'm the wrong guy to talk about this, so Walking Dead keeps going on. Well, good luck to them, but I'll be over here with my thing.
If they can continue to suck the life out of what it is that they're working into, well, then God bless them, let them do it.
The zombies are sucking the life, actually, in real
brains.
Right, quite literally.
Brains.
Have we heard any of the zombies say brains?
No,
it's just incoherent noises.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the only other to end this part of this conversation, there's two things to keep in mind. The one difference between Star Wars and Walking Dead is that they are different mediums. And again, what's interesting is that yes, Walking Dead numbers are down, but keep in mind there's so much different things that you can get in terms of content from a TV perspective. Are their numbers still better than what is mostly out there? Whether it be on a Sunday night or how many people are DVRing things or picking things up later in terms of their content. I don't know the answers to those questions.
Is the Nielsen rating still a thing?
It is. It is. And in fairness, Ivan, I just am feeling lazy to not go look them up if I really have to.
No. I'm just saying that, because we're talking about, ratings in a particular time slot and such. And I was sitting here thinking, everything used to be, that was like held up into that, that was like what everybody aspired to, was the whole Nielsen ratings and.
Well, yeah, there's still Nielsen ratings.
That stuff like that. I didn't know if that was even still done anymore.
Yes, that's still a thing. They still have ratings. That still is a thing.
For broadcast television and cable, but doesn't apply to Netflix. We don't know the numbers on Netflix.
Well, that's why it's funny. When I've been brought up about Game of Thrones, I don't know, and this is me off the top of my head, I don't know if HBO allows for the Nielsen ratings or not on their shows. So really in reality, I have no idea if that's something where that's information that they have. And the only other thing I'll say to Ivan is, the one thing about Game of Thrones is that they have been smart at times where, they've taken long hiatuses with their show to get it put, where they'll take a full year hiatus to get another season.
Right, to build that hype.
To build the hype, to build the time, to build in, and they, they do short.
I think because they do that hiatus, I think it gives them the advantage of investing that, creativity in order to make it a much stronger product once they get to filming.
Sure. I mean, the only other thing I'm going to say, though, on Walking Dead is this. Given the amount of time of the day that I can turn on AMC and I'll see Walking Dead listed, it kind of reminds me of, like, how if I'm channel flipping and it's like, oh, look, Law & Order SVU, which we all know. It's like, Law & Order's like everywhere. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. To me, if it gets to the point where those are doing good numbers and you own that product and you have rights to that product, those are all bonuses. So I just wonder if there's more to it. And again, like I said, I'm only saying this because, this is a different property in terms of the fact that it's not in the real movies. It's on TV. So what they're looking for from Star Wars versus what they're looking for from Walking Dead, the numbers may not have to be merely what you think they need to be for them to be considered a quote-unquote success. So,
do you think also too that the international market also plays into that?
sure, absolutely.
So you figure that, okay, rather they might be getting into a lull here in America, they could be this fantastic situation happening in Japan or even in Europe or in, the Middle East or in other places in India, that, Walking Dead is the thing that everybody goes to at 8 o'clock in the evening across the pond. I
I don't
mean,
know.
I think that would be a possibility. I mean, because, the mentality also, too, of when we make our movies, sometimes we start with a 1 and a 2, and then next thing you know, it's a 3, and there's a 4. Then here it is, you got season 1 and season 2 and season 3, and maybe not necessarily catering to the American audience, but maybe they might be catering to the international audiences, maybe as much.
Oh, yeah, we've seen that on the movie stage as well, about the catering to the Asian market. Yeah, we've seen that.
Well,
that is a thing.
Market, even the European market, depending on what it is.
Oh, yeah, the international market, not just the U.S. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
you look at some movies, they'll do fine in the U.S., but it's the foreign markets that help the movie make money.
Yeah.
We're seeing that more and more now.
Yeah, I can't imagine what Bohemian Rhapsody must have. I would bet Bohemian Rhapsody in Britain might be one of the top grossing movies in the history of Britain, just as a guess. But I could be very, very wrong. I didn't look at the numbers, but based on the fact that we're talking about a British band.
Yeah, it was number 1 last weekend. Of course, what was it up against? To get that crazy looking Nutcracker movie looked like that Oprah Winfrey movie again. It's like another crazy CGI adventure with no substance, no heart to it.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like to me. But
I don't know. It's funny. My mom wants to go see that movie, and I'm like, oh, let's wait a little bit. But
no, I don't. I want to see The Grinch. It comes out this weekend, but I don't want to watch it before Thanksgiving. I'm sure it'll be in the theaters after Thanksgiving, but I want to see it. But I don't want to see it before then. # War on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, I have a bad feeling that you might be wrong, Mike. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out in the next coming weeks.
I know.
It could get swept out of there, and maybe that's the reason why they've got it so early is that just like...
Oh, yeah. Illumination had to put out The Grinch before Wreck-It Ralph, too.
Well, yeah, there's that, too.
Well, it deals with a strategy. It's a promotional strategy.
Sure.
And when you think about it, you have all of these dynamite movies coming out during the Christmas season to try to give it a chance to actually, stand on its own against these Titan movies that we got coming in December and late November. Yeah, maybe it's not a fact of, we're just trying to do a little bit more conditioning about the whole Christmas thing by playing, The Grinch before Thanksgiving. I think it's more the strategic sensibility to try to give it a chance, because if that movie was to come out during the Christmas season, it's going to sink like a stone, because we got the Bumblebee movie. We got all the superhero movies coming out. We got all of this stuff happening, and put that up against The Grinch, and the thing is going to fall through the cracks.
Here's the crazy part about this. It wasn't that long ago when Jim Carrey dressed up like the Grinch, and they did a legit live-action Grinch movie, and that was like a huge movie. Like, it was either Thanksgiving weekend or after Thanksgiving weekend, and now the reaction is, okay, it would get lost in the shuffle with everything else that's coming out from Thanksgiving on, and it's like, this is crazy.
So speaking of Jim Carrey's Grinch, I read an article on Facebook, or Facebook-related article, and it stated the 10 worst Christmas movies, and that movie was actually on the 10 worst Christmas movie list, The Grinch with Jim Carrey. And, I don't know if it was because the writer of that particular list had a I don't know, maybe she didn't get her present for Christmas when she was a kid or something, but seemed like she had a bit of an axe to grind because with some of the movies on the list, I tend to disagree with a lot of it. But
Well,
who was the article by, Ivan? Do you know?
It was just something I just kind of picked up in passing. I didn't really pay much.
Me personally, I don't really care for the Jim Carrey Grinch movie. It's just a little bit too drawn out, too long. Well, I just prefer the 30-minute animated one.
Well, that's because they're trying to take a 26-minute animated feature and stretch it out to 104 minutes, which considers a lot of padding. There's a lot of like the Grinch's time in school where he was ridiculed and everything, and it traumatized him and such, and there's a lot to be said about it. I mean, Jim Carrey, in his usual over-the-top sensibilities of the things he did with comedy. I mean, it was kind of a Riddler type of. But
he is a great character actor. I mean, when he immerses himself in character, he's superb.
Well, yes, he's superb, but he does that. But the
story just didn't hold up for me.
No, and
wow.
And so that being said, I mean, they talked about the Santa Claus being on that list as well.
Yeah, I don't care much for the Tim Allen Santa movies either.
Okay, I mean, the first one. I can sit through the first one. 2 and 3, not so much. Again, here's us trying to cater to that international market. Let's go ahead. They love it when we serialize our movies, even though we don't have, a storytelling pot to piss in to try to carry these movies.
Speaking of serializing movies, I might as well bring this up now, seeing as they're on the I want to get us off Christmas movies for one thing, but I just want to bring this up that Ridley Scott is working on a sequel to Gladiator.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't understand how you do that.
Well, it says it's going to take place 2 decades after Gladiator, and it's going to focus on Lucius, the nephew of Commodus, the young kid.
Okay. I can see that working.
Okay.
I mean, if they were going to try to do it in the same framework, no. But as far as like ahead a couple hundred years, yeah.
Well,
okay.
No, it's only 20 years after. It's like Gladiator, the next generation.
Okay, so 20 years
there we go.
But Gladiator grossed almost $500 million in the year 2000, making it the second highest grossing film of the year. Earned Best Picture, Best Actor, and a bunch of other awards. So
Gladiator is one of those movies that, like, if you're flipping through channels and it's on, you're like, oh, I have found gold.
Oh, yeah.
I have found absolute gold. And you want to stick around. And the only reason you want to stick around is for the one part where you get surrounded by all the guys. And it's like, who are you? And he does that.
Takes the mask off, man. That's so badass.
That is the best part of the whole movie. It's like after that, you can leave for a while. It's like as long as you get that part, it's like that all by itself makes the movie.
Yeah, a payoff like that in the second act, but it still works. I always saw the movie in the theater back in the day, man. Now, badass.
Oh yeah, that's one of those where it's like, even today, it still holds up today. You know, if you watch that movie today, it still holds up. That's a solid movie.
Yeah.
All right, ladies.
Shadows and Dust, Ivan.
Don't set your clocks back.
No, not again.
Yeah.
That was great. Great daylight savings. Awesome. Extra hour sleep. Loved it.
Until, like, that night when I went to go out, it's like, why is it so dark at 5? Oh, yeah.
It's 4:00. Why is it dark out?
It's so dark.
It's nice in the morning, though.
Winter is coming. Oh, God. Yeah.
I got somebody leaves to rake again on Wednesday. Oh.
Okay, so
leaf raking machine.
Seems as though as long as we're on movies, we should definitely get to the one movie. And I don't know if Ivan, did you get around to seeing Bohemian Rhapsody or no?
No, I didn't get to see Bohemian Rhapsody, but I can chime in with some very important points, though.
Okay.
All right. So, if you haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody, if you don't want spoilers, you should hang. This is probably going to be a point in the show where we are going to talk a little bit about Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go about 5 or 10 minutes ahead.
Maybe a little bit longer than that. But yeah. So I'll let you go first, Mike. I will say this. I'm with you. I think that this movie is better than what critics talked about.
Oh, yeah. The morning I was going to go see it, and it was only like 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about. And I was right. I enjoyed this film. It was they were like what, 58 is what? It's like 2.5 to 3 stars. I just want a solid 4. I'd give it like a B plus, A minus. The story was just a little, I guess my only nitpicks would be about the movie is that it was a little too by the numbers. I would have liked to see them still more in their struggling days before they really hit it. But they said, you're in this movie where everything's encapsulated, where 2 very pivotal events will happen in the same scene. And that's not the case. I mean, I've seen enough of these movies to know that these things happen in like real life. It happens sometimes days or weeks apart. But still, I enjoyed this movie. The guy Rami Malek, is that his name? I can't even. Yeah,
Rami Malek, who's the lead in USA's Mr. Robot, and he's been in a few other things too.
Yeah, I never saw that film. I never saw. No, that is a series, Mr. Robot.
Yeah. He's been in a few other things too, but that I'm aware of. Rami Malek has done Mr. Robot. I know that's one thing. Oh, he was in. I didn't realize it. He's the Pharaoh's son in Night in the Museum.
The first one?
Yeah, well, there's 3, so yeah, he was in all 3.
He was in all 3 of them? Okay.
He's in all 3. He's I'm pulling up an IMDb on him now.
Okay. Yeah, great performance. I'm sure if he doesn't win the Oscar, he's probably going to get the Golden Globe. But he's up against Bradley Cooper in A Star is Born. But I hope he wins because it was well worth the performance. And it was PG-13. I think they went the right route with PG-13 instead of going all hardcore and gritty. I mean, it was tasteful in that sense. Mm-hmm. You don't have to see all the drugs and all the sex and all that to make it known that this was the 70s and the early 80s and they had a good time, if you know what I mean. But I loved it. And the music was great and how these little inspirations came out for all these great songs that came out by this awesome band. Probably, I guess, and I said mentioned that Freddie Mercury, probably one of the greatest rock and roll stage performers of the age.
Yeah, well, without question.
Yeah, I loved it. I'll see it again when it's out on cable because I got way too many other movies I want to see. But I definitely want to see it again. I'm looking forward to seeing it again eventually. But I'm not in any big hurry. But I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I think they did it right. So first of all, like I said, it was a little by the number in the sense that, okay, he's going to walk on stage for Live Aid. And the whole rest of the movie is a flashback leading up to that moment. But then when you get it, I think it's pretty much the whole set. Like the whole 20-minute set they did for Live Aid back in 1985.
It might be. I'm trying to remember what was in the set list for it. I'm sure we could pick that up here in a minute. To me, I'm with you, Mike. I think it's like they wanted to get past the struggles of Queen and how Queen came to be. It seemed like they immediately were, the next thing you know, boom, they were riding the wave. And that was kind of crazy. It seemed like there really wasn't that much the other direction. I don't know that I ever realized that Freddie Mercury was not a white guy. I don't think I ever really realized that.
He was from India.
Right. I don't think I really realized that until I saw the movie. I think I was surprised because a lot of the big songs, they kind of talked about how they got to those big songs. The one they didn't, which is ironic because it's in the set that they do at Live Aid, is We Are the Champions. They don't talk at all about how they got to We Are the Champions, which I thought was interesting. And yeah, I do think that there are some points in this movie where it starts to lull, and there's some places where I don't know that they needed to do some of the things they did. I think they spent, I understand the movie's Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's kind of funny because at the end of the day, it's not like they ended on Bohemian Rhapsody or anything like that. They ended on the Live Aid concert, which, really in reality, they were the big, that's all of you. If you talk about that Live Aid concert from the mid-'80s, nothing else, what you remember is it was a big deal. There were a lot of stars, but at the end of the day, if you were around at that time, it was, Queen pretty much took over the freaking thing.
Yeah.
That they were that. The one thing I thought was hysterical, and I don't know if you caught this, Mike, the conversation where they're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody going on the radio.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, and Mike Myers plays the label exec. That was a nice cameo, and the fact that we're talking to Mike Myers in a scene, we're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought it was a nice.
Well, did you catch the one line he said? There's no way a whole bunch of kids in the car are going to sit there and bob their heads up and down to this song.
I like the one. I heard the one scene. He says, "It's 6 minutes long. It goes on forever." And Freddie says, "I pity your wife if you think 6 minutes is forever." Yeah.
But I thought it was well done. It was very, very subtle. The comment that he makes. Yeah. I don't think anybody in my audience would catch up, but I think I might have been the only one who caught that comment as a joke comment about the fact that you're talking about Mike Myers, who basically they did exactly that. That Bohemian Rhapsody, that's one of those reasons why that song came back. By the way, that's the other thing I thought was interesting. Okay? They give Mike Myers the nod by putting him in the movie. I think it's interesting that there's no conversation about how Queen's resurgence happens in some ways because of Wayne's World and that moment in that movie. And I think it's interesting that at no point do they talk about that.
No, they just talk about, they use the Live Aid concert as the centerpiece, the bookend, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then obviously the end, they say he passed away in 1991, and they didn't talk about how they did the soundtrack for Flash Gordon.
Yeah, they didn't talk about that either. That's interesting too. You're right. In fairness, based on the story that they were trying to tell, I'm not shocked on this. They spent a lot of time more about, and I get it, Freddie Mercury is the most interesting, and yes, that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're right.
And the press conference scene, like the claustrophobic, anxiety-inducing press conference scene where the reporters are asking all these really rude and terrible questions, and they say, "You're the leader of Queen." And just, no, I'm not the leader. I'm just the lead singer. And by then they'd done maybe more things by committee, but still, I would have liked to have seen 10 or 15 more minutes of this film. And a couple of really heartfelt moments in it as well, about how he explains to his wife about what's wrong and his urges and all that.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, and that's the other interesting part is that story is an interesting story too, with the way that they do that. I don't know that we needed 15 more minutes, Mike. I just think that they needed to rework some of the aspects of I think there were 15 minutes of movie that they could have reworked a little differently. Yeah. And the other thing, here's the other thing that critics are harping on, is that they don't talk about the AIDS thing enough in the movie. And the only thing I'm going to say is I think that they answer the question to that really, really well, which is, when Freddie Mercury was alive, he wasn't interested in that, and he didn't really want to talk about that. And it only came out after he died, and then it became a thing about Freddie Mercury, and all, and he became an icon about AIDS. It wasn't until afterwards, so I kind of not shocked by the direction that they took with the movie, and I'm a little confused by critics who insist that they should have done more about this with him. And it's like, but that's not who and what he was. understand where you're coming from with it.
And the two band members were executive producers on the movie, so they wanted to be sure that it was done right. And I think they did a great job. The guy who was the lead guitarist, I mean, it looked just like him.
Yeah.
You're talking about Brian May?
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a good job.
Yeah, the casting was great. The performances, of course, it wasn't really the actor's voice. Obviously, it was Freddie, or maybe in some parts might have been a really good impersonator.
You don't think so? You think maybe? I don't know. I mean, in fairness, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too naive. I thought maybe. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Still, loved it. 4 out of 5 yeah-mans.
I will say this to you too, Ivan, since you haven't seen it. I thought, okay, I'll just see it in a regular standard theater. If you have not seen the movie yet, I would sit there and say see it in either the Dolby or see it in the IMAX. Because I'll tell you right now, we were walking by the IMAX theater, okay? And you could literally hear the music through the wall.
Wow.
Okay? It was amazing. And I'm like, later I was kicking, it was funny. I went with my mom, who, by the way, knows nothing about Queen and loved this movie. My favorite was this when they started singing We Are the Champions. She's like, oh, is that one of their songs too? I'm like, yes. But again, my mom told her this is not her generation, this is not her time. As it was, I had to try to explain to her, okay, so Queen's time frame is, I mean, really in reality, for me, I don't know about you, Mike, but by the time I was aware of Queen was technically done. I mean, Queen had gone on to their hiatus. The first, but I was aware of them, and that's why, to me, it was a big deal about Live Aid was, oh, they're back. Because literally it was like I had just found them, and then it was like, oh, they're back. So like I said, but yeah, I think I would recommend for people to see this one in IMAX just on the sound.
I'm going to be really interested in seeing how the movie holds up, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna be happy.
Well, let me finish my statement, okay? And I'll tell you why. And the reason why it is, having seen Queen myself personally, was one of my first concerts growing up as a teenager.
Where'd you see them?
So I saw them at the amphitheater.
Oh wow!
Dare I say, what year was it?
1976.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And it was with Thin Lizzy. They opened. And what it was that when we got there, most of the people were just talking about Thin Lizzy. I mean, Jailbreak was popular, and that was the thing that was going around, Phil Vignon and all the rest of it. But then, once Queen took the stage, it was almost as though the whole scene had just changed colors. And it became this whole new thing that just swept over the audience when Freddie opened up his mouth, and next thing you know, you hear his piercing, vibrant and, strong vocals over what the band was doing. And the amphitheater is not known for its acoustics, but it didn't seem that much of a deal at that moment. And, and it was just out of a stroke of good luck that I had a friend whose boyfriend kind of ditched out on her that I ended up having to go as a substitute, a substitute date, and got to see that. I would have never got to see that otherwise. But here you got a man who lived through a childhood filled with ridicule because of the way his teeth were set. They called him Bucky growing up, which he would, anytime he would smile, he would put his hand over his mouth because he was very self-conscious and shy. That was where his love of cats came from, because he didn't have much in the way of friends.
Yeah, they did touch upon that in the movie where they just had a couple of scenes where he got this nice big flat. And he said, oh, I've got a room for each of my cats. Like Sylvia will stay in this room, and this room will be for so-and-so. But they only touched about that in the film.
Did you know that some of his songs were actually written for his cats? and that one of his albums was dedicated to his cat.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a number of different things too. As far as like the thing with the AIDS, and I think the reason why they didn't go hard on it in the movie, it was because it was a very private thing for Freddie Mercury, and he did not want to be remembered as the poster child for AIDS.
Right,
Yeah.
they talk about that in the movie.
You did.
There's a scene in the movie that, quite frankly, is a tear-jerking scene where if you can get through that scene without crying or tearing up, more power to you. But
I mean, and having seen that, and heard that for myself. I mean, A Night at the Opera, A Day at the Races, all the You're My Best Friend, Fat Bottom Girls, Under Pressure, all these great songs that they did, Tie Your Mother Down. Everybody talks about all the other songs, and of course Bohemian Rhapsody being the centerpiece because of its initial release and then its resurgence.
Due to Wayne's World, yeah.
And, it's a music that has been in rotation in many of the major rock markets since its inception. I mean, it never really truly went away. It just
forget that. Ivan, let's take it a step further. Take it a step further. Okay? We are the champions. We will rock you. No one bites the dust. Probably 3 of the biggest sports anthem songs in the history of sports anthem songs.
Right. That's exactly right, Jeff. It's because that was where the power of Freddie Mercury is most prominent in the writing's prowess of Brian May, which I got to also see Brian May over at the Big Theater when he started touring in the 90s. He had a CD out at the time called Back to the Light. I think it was 1993. And Gary Hoey opened for him. For those of you who wonder who Gary Hoey is, he was a guitar guy like Steve Vai and a number of other people that were doing guitar-driven rock and roll back in the early 90s.
Ivan, tell us more about your experience when you saw Queen back in '76.
Well, what it was that I came, sat down and they came out.
Were you down on the floor or were you up in the balcony?
If I remember right, my memory hasn't faded that much. I think we were like on the 10th or 11th row.
Okay.
On the floor?
No, because it's in the round.
Right.
Yeah, so, but
they moved it around? Not the stage?
The Chicago Amphitheater?
Yeah, the Chicago Amphitheater was just everything was met to the one side,
right,
and then around. So, being what of course, a lot of things happened at the amphitheater. So, being said, as you're sitting there, and the band is going through they're going through their album, and plus a few other songs that they were just new at the time that they were up on the stage. And then once they got off the stage and everything goes into this stark darkness, and then you have this one light just following the center of the stage, and Freddie just steps right into the spotlight, and with half a microphone stand with a mic at the end of it, which was to become his.
That's trademark, yeah.
His trademark. That was like his almighty staff. I'm going to part the sea of music down the middle, and I'm going to cut into your musical psyche, which he did just that, and went through the entire album. It was fluid. It was beautiful. It brought you in, and it made you part of what was around you. It united you with the people around you and about you. It made you feel good. It made you feel like, yeah, you know what? We're all friends here. Let's just let it all hang out. I'm happy that you're here. I want you to be happy. And he just expressed that in every note and every move he made. He never stopped moving. He was just everywhere. everywhere that you would hope that he was going to be. And he gazed out into his audience. He met his audience head on when he performed. And he's saying every word as though his life depended on it. And this is, it was like, here's my music. This is my point. Me and Brian and all the rest of the people in the band, this is what we got. And we're giving you everything, because I believe in this. This is what I believe in. And I will not give you any less. And he never did. Throughout the whole hour plus performance that was happening. He never let it down. He kept the energy. He could have lit up a city just by the mere presence of his being.
Yeah, he was larger than life, that's for sure. And
I mean, he impressed upon a misfit 16-year-old who, after I walked away from that performance and went and picked up an album the following day, which still sits in my collection. And I never forgot it. And so it'll be interesting to see just how it's going to make me feel. And I will take you onto that that IMAX presentation, Jeff. Because, I want to feel that again. I want to feel that again. Because Queen, in of themselves, are one of the few bands that I know out of my 70s and 80s situation that has meant that way to me. You know how you feel about Genesis, Mike?
Well, no, it's maybe not that. They're one of my favorite bands, but I don't.
But I know you have your favorites.
We all got our favorites.
We all got our favorites, and that to me, meant a great deal to me.
Okay.
And it kind of opened the door for me for one of the first bands I ever got to see. It's just like when you first fall in love, your first girlfriend or anything, you never really truly forget the first time. So it's like, wow. So I go with great anticipation to see this movie. I mean, and I know the history, and I know the story, and I'm sure in true Hollywood fashion, they're never going to ever really get it quite to where certain things are going to be. But as long as they still to its own self be true, then I'll be satisfied with it. And that's and okay, I know that in my movie-going experience, especially musical movie-going experiences, I tend to be a little hard because, I'm the fact guy. I'm the person that...
Fact. F-A-C-T.
Well, he's sometimes a fact guy, too, though.
I am a fact guy. I'm a fact guy, but I like my facts.
Information, as in.
Yeah, I like my facts.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that. Just want to clarify.
Yeah. So there's my point. So I'm not going to go in guns blazing on Bohemian Rhapsody because that's touching upon something that's near and dear to me, and so I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. And I got a real good feeling because now that you guys kind of reinforced my interest in wanting to see this movie now, I'm going to be more than happy to give my 2 cents in on the next show. But yeah, I'm excited now. I really want to see this.
I was not planning on seeing this movie. I was like this. I can wait for this.
I saw this trailer months ago, and I said I got to see this.
Yeah, I was of the opposite. I was like, you know what? I don't need to see this movie. You know what? I'm not really looking to see this movie. It ended up where I took my mom, and we went for the first show before noon on a Saturday. And that's the only reason I was there. So to me, it was certainly better than I expected, but then again, I wasn't expecting much to begin with, because I hadn't watched the trailers and I hadn't paid enough attention, and this wasn't a movie where I was like, oh my god, I totally need to see this movie.
I saw the rushes, and I said to myself, yeah, you know what, that that could be good. That could be good.
Like I said, Mike and I come from different perspectives, but I agree. But we agree on one thing. It's definitely I would see it in the theater. I would see it in the theater, and like I said, I would see it in either Dolby or IMAX, because when I was walking past and I heard how clear and loud the sound was from the IMAX theater, it's bad when your mom, who's older, is like, "Oh, we should have gone to the IMAX." By the way, my mom, who doesn't know Queen, didn't know Queen, didn't know anything about Queen, and we're leaving, and she's like, "We should have seen it in the IMAX." That should tell you all you really need to know.
There you go.
So when do you give it out of 5, mans?
I'll go 4.
Yeah, I guess I go 4.
3.5 to 4. I would say it's a solid B.
I'm like B+, A-. I liked it.
Again, I think there's some things that... Ready? For once, I'm going to play a little bit of the Ivan, which is I think that there were some things that got omitted. Like, for example, it's very interesting how they had the words at the end about how Bohemian Rhapsody had a resurgence in the 90s, but they don't tell you why.
We all know why. Because we lived it. We were there.
You and I know why. Ivan knows why. But
I think
but
the
there's
reason why
people who don't know.
is because I don't know if that's a contractual thing, or that's something that maybe that just, wasn't something that was thought about at the moment that they made it. So.
Well, hold on a second. It had to be thought of, because they certainly made more than made sure Mike Myers.
I know they made the references in the movie with all the
right. There had to be. It was a decision about story. There's no question that they cut it for time, and they felt this is the best way they could go. Because if Mike Myers is going to have a line that for most people was a throwaway line about
he was in like one or two scenes, and he had an opening. He was mentioned in the opening credits.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we know why Bohemian Rhapsody has helped push them back to the mainstream in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, but we do. But here's the thing. You got people who, and this is going to date you, but 1992 is what? I mean, here, I'll go do the math.
26 years ago? 30
26 years ago.
Yeah.
So really in reality, there's people who might see this movie who are like,
what's Wayne's World? I know.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why my reaction is my reaction.
Yeah, they might not understand why that is.
Right.
You just might simply have to do with the fact that Wayne's World came out under a rival studio, and they didn't want to mention it.
But there's a lot of
that could be it too. Who knows?
So, whatever.
But for whatever reason, and I'm sure in this digital world that we live in, I'm sure people are going to reference it and ask why he was in the movie, and I'm sure once they click on it, they'll be like, "Oh, I get it."
Because when that movie came out, everybody bought the tape. Nobody bought the CD to the Wayne's World soundtrack. Everybody bought the cassette.
Yeah, because cassettes were still kind of a thing.
Because they wanted to pop the cassette into their stereo.
Sure, that's true too.
Yeah.
Well, I already had it. I mean, that's the one thing too. Is Queen is an interesting scenario, because, like I said, by the time I was aware of Queen, which is the mid '80s when I hit around high school, Queen was already technically done in some ways, at least in America. Okay, they weren't getting the radio play in America, but yet, if you knew who Queen was, if you were aware of Queen and you knew who Queen was, and you were in high school, people thought you knew something about music. So, because we're talking about the mid-90s, like I said, that's the other reason why it was like, oh, when they did Live Aid, when they did it, it was a big deal to people at my age in high school. It's like, oh, Queen. People who were aware was like, that's a big deal. I do question, the other thing I question, Mike, is they certainly did make it seem like if Queen hadn't performed, they wouldn't have made nearly the money that they needed to make for Live Aid. And I want to know if that's true.
Yeah, that seems like, I was like, all the operators sitting around saying, nothing.
That might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good talent in Live Aid. Okay?
Especially when they listed off the names. That's going to be in Live Aid.
Ivan, they're talking about Britain's office too. They're talking about the specific Britain's office about a goal for what they're going to make in Britain, and their name and based on who's there. Oh yeah, you're right. The phones would not be ringing off the hook in any way, shape, or form for the Rolling Stones, the Who, and
McCartney.
Yeah. Nobody's interested in those bands. It's only when Queen returned.
There might have been a little bit of embellishment.
That's what I'm saying. It's a big stretch. Come on.
It's a huge stretch.
The Rolling Stones were still very much relevant. The Who was still very much relevant, even though, and all the rest of the bands were still very much relevant at the time that Live Aid was taking place. So, I think that somebody took some poetic license with that band, maybe.
Absolutely. I'm trying to look right now to see.
I just kind of shrugged it off and was like, okay, but it didn't distract from my movie going experience.
Hold on a second. Okay,
no. Again, I'm not. If this isn't going to be a case of I've been going into the theater and shooting holes at the screen like Cadillac Records. So this is going to be I've been going to the screen and reliving a time of his life.
I just saw this as a good dedication. And that's with the predictable Hollywood embellishments with the stories.
I gotta be honest, I'm looking, okay, so I'm looking at who were the performers at Wembley that day, okay? Now, Ivan Prime might know some of these bands, I don't, okay? They start out with somebody called Coldstream Guards, like, I'm not aware of, somebody called Status Quo.
Oh, the Status Quo, yeah, they had a huge hit in 1967 called Pictures of Matchstick Men, and they are still performing to this day.
And that's not one of the songs listed. That's not one of the songs listed that they did. They had somebody called the Style Council. Now again, keep in mind, Britain, some of these bands we never hear from that are huge in Britain. Status
Quo is huge in Britain. They only made a dent here in America only in the 60s. Style Council, I've heard of Style Council.
Style Council, the Boomtown Rats. I'm not aware of that.
Which evolved into Tom Petty.
Oh, did it really? Okay. All right. Here's the interesting one. They only gave Adam Ant one song.
Okay, what song was that?
Viva La Rock.
Okay, that was off of his latest album, Viva La Rock.
Well, I'm just looking at this. Of the names that we just talked about, you know those names, but of the first 5 names on this list for what they did, I would put money on the fact the only name that I and Mike know is Adam Ant.
Right. Well, okay. As far as the first bunch of names, yeah. I mean, you know what? Style Council. I'll put my money down on Style Council. I'll put my money down on the Boomtown Rats.
I guess. The point I'm getting at is, based on the way that this is looking, there might have been some truth to this, because it's like they went to this group called the Boomtown Rats, Adam Ant for one song. They went to a group called Ultravox that doesn't ring a bell. Spandau Ballet.
Wait a minute. Ultravox was one of the premier techno synth bands along the lines of like Gary Newman or along the lines of David Bowie, along that line of music, like XTC in that realm of music, which was very popular in the 1980s. So yeah, Ultravox, Reap the Wild Wind was real big around 83, 84.
Yeah, that was there. But okay, so here's a band. At least I know who they are. Maybe because they got airplay here in the States, which is Spandau Ballet. Elvis.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Elvis Costello for one song.
Was it Five Spine of Detectives?
No, All You Need Is Love.
Okay, they had him do a Beatles song.
I guess. Then they have somebody called Nick Kershaw that I don't recognize.
No, I don't know.
They had Sade. Now
I would have put my money down.
Right,
on Sade.
right. Okay. Once you get past this Nick Kershaw, okay, now we start to get talking. You're talking about Sade. They had Sting and Phil Collins do a set together.
Okay.
Okay. They had Howard Jones do one song. I don't know who Brian Ferry is. Paul Young rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
Brian Ferry was with Roxy Music.
Okay. Again, Mike, is any of this?
Love is the drug.
No.
Okay. See, this is what I mean, Ivan. To you, it's ringing a bell. To me, or somebody like Mike, the only reason I'm bringing some of this up is I can see where they might be able to pull this off, because based on who they have coming up, and they're almost up halfway into the show, and there's nobody. Well, actually, I take it back. I'm sorry. You have Sting, you have Sade, and you have Sting and Phil Collins. No, the phones should have started hopping there. Howard Jones was a big enough act at that time. It should have been. Yeah. And then, to be honest with you, right before Queen, you had U2 and you had Dire Straits. Right, no, that hopped.
Yeah, well, you know what?
And then following Queen, you've got David Bowie, The Who, Elton John. I guess Freddie Mercury came back out to do. See, here's the part we don't talk about. Freddie Mercury came back out to do another song with Brian May, and then they had Paul McCartney for one song for Let It Be. And then they came out and did Who Do They Know It's Christmas as a group.
Band-Aid.
I'm just curious. Okay, now I'm curious about what were the three locations again? They were where? It was Philadelphia, John F. Kennedy Stadium, JFK.
Was it Rio? Rio de Janeiro?
Was the other one? Because I know there were, three locations, right?
Yeah.
No, there were other locations.
Was it one of the Wembley Stadium?
Well, right. What was Wembley Stadium? That was the Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
And then here's Phil. I guess Philly was the other location. I was not aware.
I think that's right.
I was not aware that. I thought there was more than this. I'm looking at this.
It wasn't L.A.?
No, I'm surprised. That's what I'm shocked by. I don't see L.A. here at all. Wow. Wow, I gotta tell you, I'm a little surprised by who's not on this list for United.
I think most of what was happening in Wembley Stadium was just more or less based upon the British and/or Mediterranean acts that were happening in and around the time when all that was being done.
Well, I mean,
with the possible exception of a few other of the artists, yeah.
In fairness, I mean,
let's face it. No. I mean, that's a very solid. No, naturally, I think it was. I think the way it was arranged was just due to chart action and/or relevant performance situation as to what each artist was doing.
So wait, Ivan, this is where things get weird, okay? Because I'm looking at this. I'm looking at Philadelphia, okay?
Yeah.
So let me run down who they had in Philadelphia as long as we're doing this.
Okay.
They had Bernard Watson, which might be the only name I don't recognize. They had Joan Baez. They had the Hooters, which is kind of amusing because the Hooters only had a couple big songs. The Four Tops, Billy Ocean, talk about a weird lineup. You had Billy Ocean, then you went to Black Sabbath, then you went to Run DMC, followed by Rick Springfield.
Yes.
Rick Springfield, okay, his last hurrah, all right.
Well, in fairness, Rick Springfield was probably still getting decent airplay by that point.
Oh, yeah.
Mario Spiewak, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Judas Priest, Bryan Adams, the Beach Boys, George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Mm-hmm. Yet, by the way, no Bad to the Bone for George Thorogood and the Destroyers, which is kind of strange. The Simple Minds, the Pretenders, Santana.
Okay.
Ashford and Simpson, which in fairness at the time makes sense. Madonna is here. Here's the interesting part. You mentioned about Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers are in Philadelphia. So the group that you were talking about earlier, Tom Petty wasn't there.
Well, he splintered off from that group long after.
Well, he did do some solo stuff. I was like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
Real fast, so I can get through it. Here's who else was on this bill. The rest of the bill: Kenny Loggins, the Cars, Neil Young, Power Station, the Thompson Twins. Eric Clapton. What doesn't make any sense? Here's the part that doesn't make any sense. Eric Clapton. Then they talk about Phil Collins, but they just showed Phil Collins was in London. So where was he?
That's right. He took the Concorde. I remember I read in his book for Live Aid, he took the Concorde from London to Philly.
Did he really?
Yes,
okay,
he did.
That makes sense. Led Zeppelin is here. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Here's the crazy part. They couldn't figure out a way to get Duran Duran in London, so they had him in America.
Well, Clapton was in America.
Right, Clapton's in America too. Like, there's some people.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You mentioned the Power Station. Wasn't members of Duran Duran and Arcadia part of the Power Station?
Yes, they were.
And so was Robert Palmer.
Was Arnold Palmer part of the Power Station?
Robert Palmer, not Arnold Palmer.
Robert Palmer made it.
I said Robert Palmer.
Right in the sand trap. Oh, no.
Yeah, Robert Palmer, Andy Taylor, John Taylor, Tony Thompson, Michael Desbarres, and Bernard Edwards. I don't recognize some of those names. But yeah, I remember seeing Power Station live. Real fast, let me just get through the rest of this. So Patty, we mentioned Duran Duran. I just think it's interesting Duran Duran was not in London and wasn't able to get on the bill in London, especially considering the fact we're talking about mid-'80s Duran Duran. They might have been bigger in the world at that time than mid-'80s Duran Duran.
Well, this is true. Wasn't Hungry like the Wolf probably a big charting action thing happening by then?
Here's the set that they did in Philly. A View to a Kill, Union of the Snake, Save a Prayer, The Reflex. So by that point, Hungry Like the Wolf had been... Hungry Like the Wolf is like the early 80s. It's like 82, 83.
Yeah, Rio was like 82, 83, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking... We're at the apex of Duran Duran. I mean, you really are. That's why I'm shocked that they're like... That it's like, okay, you couldn't figure out a way to get Duran Duran to put him on the bill in London. Then again, you're right. Clapton, why is Clapton here? And the Rolling Stones apparently were in Philly and not London.
Well, maybe it was because maybe they were either A, recording, B, touring the United States at the time. It was a matter of geography.
Check this out, Ivan. What? Talk about something I'd like to see and I'd like to find. Hall & Oates with Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, it gets better. Then they're joined by Mick Jagger and Tina Turner.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There has to be video. There has to be video.
Well, I'm sure there is.
Somewhere. There has to be.
Yeah. And then I'm looking at this. So they finished out the night with Bob Dylan, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, and then they went to USA for Africa. What's interesting to me is the names that aren't here.
Well, USA for Africa, I mean, wasn't Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie and...
Right, well, that's what I'm talking about. Think about...
Didn't they do We Are the World? That was before that, right? Or that was afterward?
No, that was before, because they did We Are the World at the end of the other Philly. But seriously, I'm looking at this list of names, and think about the 80s. And the scary part is, the bill that they have listed for Philadelphia is damn impressive. But think about this. Think about, let me throw the names at you who I didn't see on this list, and there's names I wasn't even thinking about. Okay? No Bruce Springsteen. Okay? Right. No Michael Jackson. No Stevie Wonder. No Prince.
Right.
Okay? No Billy Joel. No Boy George. No Waylon Jennings. No Christopher Cross. No Huey Lewis in the News. Okay? No Cyndi Lauper. Okay?
Yeah, because Cyndi Lauper just won the Grammy a year before, didn't she, in 84?
No Foreigner, no Moody Blues. You had Sting, but not the Police. No Diana Ross, no Van Halen. I mean, look at the names that weren't there, and then think about that. I mean, that's just crazy.
Still a pretty damn good set list.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean.
Pretty solid, man.
Yeah, good lineup.
Right. Oh, no, that's kind of what I mean. I mean, like, it's a solid lineup, and yet you're sitting there thinking about mid-'80s, and look at, and yet some of the biggest names in the mid-'80s weren't even there, and you'd still sit there and say, I'd pay to see a lot of that right now.
Yeah.
I'd pay to see a lot of it right now.
And was this broadcast on MTV?
I think so. I don't know.
Did they do like the whole live broadcast?
Wasn't that a pay-per-view thing? Wasn't that a pay-per-view thing?
I don't know. I'd have to go look at. Hold on.
Yeah,
now
I have to look it up.
Now I got to go back and look it up.
How was it broadcast? But they said it was over 1 billion people.
Let's see. Let me see if I can get some. Yeah. Well, they said 500 million, right? Or
no, like 1 to 1.5 billion people.
Here, broadcasts
around the world.
No, we're wrong. Europe had it. BBC had it.
Yeah.
In England, and apparently, it was not only. Let's see. Yes, it was on MTV, but apparently, and God bless his soul, Dick Clark got it on ABC, but they only aired 3 hours, the final 3 hours from Philadelphia. So ABC did have 3 hours of it on network television.
And this is 1985. Not everybody had cable.
Right. Right. Cable was still, cable really was early. I remember we had it in the house like 81, 82.
Yeah, same here. We had like 80, 81. Yeah.
But yeah, so Dick Clark was involved in this too, which doesn't surprise me. That makes all the sense in the world. Did we say Willie Nelson's name? No, we didn't. So Willie Nelson wasn't here either, which is kind of surprising. Anyway.
But country wasn't as mainstream in 85. Country was still in its own little pocket in 85, as far as in the pop music world.
Yeah, but Willie Nelson had that. Keep in mind, Willie Nelson had gone past that because he did the one song with
Julio Iglesias.
Julio Iglesias. I want to say Enrique. I'm like, no, that's the kid. Okay. I almost said Gabriel Iglesias, but he wants cake. But yeah, wow, did that devolve? They did come up with the top 10. They did come out with the top TV salaries in 2018. Any guesses as to who some of them are?
Now, does this TV count cable?
Yeah, sadly, yes. That makes it more difficult, doesn't it?
And Netflix.
Yeah.
I saw last week that Netflix just dropped their final season of House of Cards.
Yeah, well.
And of course, with sans Kevin Spacey, his character is dead for obvious reasons.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because some of the bigger names on this, just to give you an idea, it's funny. Some of the bigger paydays are for things either A, haven't come out yet, or B, I'm not seeing. Like, apparently Apple's doing a bunch of stuff for their Apple TV. They're paying Reese Witherspoon $1.1 million for some sort of untitled morning show drama, and they're paying Jennifer Aniston $1.1. Steve Carell is being paid for some Apple thing.
Steve Carell he's going to a couple of movies this year.
Yeah, he's got I think there's a movie he's got that's pretty good at the moment. Julia Roberts has got that Homecoming thing that's coming out that I can't remember who's got it.
This year she did that movie with about the kid with the scarred face or something, where her and Owen Wilson. Was that this year?
I don't know. Hey, as long as we're going back to it, Walking Dead must be doing halfway well. Okay. Currently, Norman Reedus of The Walking Dead, who I believe is the guy who plays Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl Dixon.
$1 million per episode.
Wow.
Wait, no, is it $1 million per episode? Or yeah, $1 million per episode. So they gotta be doing something right.
And he's doing cons too. Doing conventions.
Oh, God. I'm telling you right now, Samuel.
Bank.
Samuel Jackson's gonna make when he gets old, he's gonna be a con freak. You know that, right?
Oh, he's not turned it on anything. He's doing the Capital One commercials.
Right. Well, no, I'm talking about like when it gets to the point where he's like done. You know he's gonna be at every con and like wheel me out. May the force be with you. Where is my check?
That's right. I'm Nick Fury. No, I'm Mace Windu. I'm both. Ha ha.
Yeah, give me money.
That'll be $50 an autograph.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Well, hey, good on him.
I gotta wait for you guys to pay that though.
$50?
If you're willing to move to Fort Worth, Texas, they're looking for people to pet dogs for $100 an hour.
$100 an hour to pet dogs?
Mm-hmm.
At Fort Worth, Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Fort Worth is about 15 hours away, I think.
What do you think, Ivan?
To pet dogs for $15 an hour?
$100 an hour. It's the Mutt's Canine Cantina, a pup-friendly restaurant and dog park. And the details of their first ever pup turn. They greet the Mutt's members and their furry friends for $100 an hour. And you're supposed to send something. You gotta apply by November 12th, and you gotta show why you should be hired.
Well, $100 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I don't mind.
You ain't nothing but a
By the way, I couldn't call it. I waited too late. I wanted to do it for the show. I did not realize that the line is officially closed. I don't know if you saw Oscar Mayer is claiming that a hot dog is a sandwich, and they had a line where you could defend your position with live operators for 24 hours.
Well, what else is it? It's a sandwich. It's got a bun. It's got something in the middle of it.
No, it doesn't have bread. Bread on top and the bottom makes a sandwich. A bun is a hot dog bun specifically. It's just cut, not all the way though.
I think it's an American.
But it's still bread though.
Yeah, but it's a special kind of bread.
It's a specially designed piece of bread
to accommodate the wiener.
Right.
It's all about the shape of the bread, which makes it a bun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a hamburger. I mean, I'd call it a hamburger sandwich only because I heard it in a movie once, where one woman says, "Oh, I sure could go for a hamburger sandwich and some French fried potatoes." And I said,
"Well, it's funny."
But nobody calls a hamburger a sandwich.
Well, in the early Vitaphone days of film, there was a MC who would refer to hot dogs as Frankfurter sandwiches.
That I've heard.
Frankfurter sandwiches.
That's a.
I hate to tell you what I really wanted to call. Why I really wanted to call. I wanted to call because I wanted to confront them about where they stood on the ketchup or no ketchup debate.
Well, you're in Chicago, so that's a no ketchup debate.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people think will disagree with you on that one.
Well, I mean, it's all a matter of taste in the end, whether or not you put ketchup or don't put ketchup on a hot dog. Just people think that, ketchup is sacrilege on a hot dog. You should only put mustard on a hot dog. But you know what? Everybody has their own taste buds.
Yeah, so, you can have your own taste buds. You can have your own taste buds, even if you're wrong.
Really.
Jeff has very strong opinions when it comes to food.
I do.
Okay.
# War on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, now, as far as the war on Thanksgiving, I'm with you with the turkey and the cranberry sauce and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and gravy and the apple pie and the 3-bean casserole and all the other good stuff like that. Yeah, I'm with you. And
no, but here's the deal. If you live in Chicago, I understand if you were a child or you're a transplant and you use ketchup. I'm good with that. I understand. You were not taught.
I mean, me personally, I don't use ketchup on my hot dogs. I've always been a mustard man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I will also
apply to me, but there are a lot of people out there. I mean, I know people who put ketchup on Polish sausages.
See, now that's wrong. That's just wrong. What are you doing? What are you doing? What do you need to do that for? Put some grilled onions on that thing, and you put and you put some mustard. That's all you need on a freaking Polish sausage. That's it. That's it. Why is this so hard? Maybe, here, ready? If you're willing to go along with it, because Superdog does it, and I will say it was rather tasty, they used barbecue sauce and grilled onions, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, barbecue sauce is not ketchup, so
right.
That's an entirely different culinary experience.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, I mean, I could see myself doing barbecue sauce on a Polish.
I will give you guys an exclusive. Ready? And no one else is going to hear this anywhere else unless you heard it here. If the hot dog is not a Vienna beef kosher hot dog, or is not a kosher style hot dog, if it's one of those crappy Oscar Mayers or Ballpark Franks or something like that, okay, maybe if you're from Chicago and you got one of those, okay, maybe you can sit there and go, yeah, you know what? Okay, ketchup. But if you got a good kosher style hot dog from Chicago, no ketchup. No ketchup. No way.
Mike had a Vienna hot dog with me one day. Remember when we went before DairyCon last year?
Yeah, we went to the Vienna beef and we picked up the quantity you would take to the show. Oh yeah,
those things went, man.
It's good, man. We have a local branch out here that serves nothing but Vienna beef hot dogs.
Yeah.
No other kind. So.
I do have a few more things for you guys.
Okay.
Some of this you'll bang your head at because God knows I did. The U.S. Navy's costliest carrier was delivered without elevators for lift bombs.
Well, they have elevators for the aircraft. Just put the bombs on the elevator with the aircraft.
Previously undisclosed problems with 11 elevators for a ship built by Huntington Ingalls Industries added to long-standing reliability and technical problems with two other core systems, the electromagnetic system to launch planes and the arresting gear to catch them while they land. This is not sounding good. Apparently,
they forgot the elevators for the bombs.
Yeah.
Well, then just have the two ensigns carry them up the flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Just as long as you don't drop them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they only weigh like I mean, you want them to keep in shape or you want them to die while they do this? Apparently this is the most costliest barrier that we have. Lacked 11 elevators needed for warfare. Good Lord. Seriously?
Tax dollars at work.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. According to Variety, more than half the movies have been rated R in the past 50 years, according to Motion Pictures MPAA study. And this is on the Prisoner Roundtable podcast, by the way. You can take a look on our Facebook page and see this. I guess, and you can see more on this one. This is not nearly as funny. I thought we'd have time to talk about this. But let's see. Let's see if we can get to the funny. And I think music is helpful, too. By the way, apparently Tyler Perry ending Medea in 2019.
Why?
Apparently he's done. He's ending the Medea character.
It's a great character.
Wow. Yeah, I think he's tired of doing it. Here's a quote from Tyler Perry. I'm happy to kill that old bitch. I'm tired man. That's okay. Some of us have been tired of Medea for quite some time.
Let Medea go out like in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
like a war hero.
What's the last movie that they're doing? The filmmaker will do a farewell stage tour in 2019's Tyler Perry Medea's family funeral to say goodbye to the iconic character. It's been 20 years. Okay, so in fairness, it's been a good run.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been 20 years. Okay, I get. All right.
Don't worry. They'll bring Medea back as a zombie. She can be on The Walking Dead.
And have an episode on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Will Medea get $1 million per episode with Daryl?
you know he'd probably get more.
Yeah.
So that's a show I'd watch. Medea and the Walking Dead. I would watch that. For all the wrong reasons, I would watch that.
It could be good for one episode, I think.
I think it'd be
one episode.
Maybe a mini arc.
One episode about it.
No, that's what they need for The Walking Dead. They need The Walking Dead, and they need a Walking Dead that's like, what is it? What was the movie that the Wayans did? Scary movie. They need like a scary movie Walking Dead, where it's like, what are you, crazy? I'm not going in there. Are you guys nuts? That kind of
read the door. The door says, "Don't go inside," or "Don't open dead inside."
Yeah, don't go in there.
I'm not opening that door.
Yeah, there might be zombies in there. We shouldn't go there. We should definitely go in there. What do you mean we should definitely go in there? Are you nuts?
All right, I'm going this way.
Yeah.
That's right. Put The Rock and Kevin Hart in The Walking Dead together.
Yeah, that could be amusing. Kevin Hart in The Walking Dead would be funny.
Yeah.
Now, that'd be funny all by itself. Do I not going in there? Are you crazy? Kevin Hart and Medea versus The Walking Dead. Now there we go. There we go.
It is.
Wait. Teamed up with Rick Grimes. There you go. There's your movie. I'll watch that.
3-picture deal, yeah.
Yeah, I'll watch that. That I'll watch. Apparently, dead butt syndrome is a real thing, and here's how to tell you can have it. The condition can lead to inflammation and an abnormal normal muscle function. Prolonged sitting has well been established. Chances are you can develop anything from heart disease to cancer to diabetes. Americans are sitting so long that their butts are literally falling asleep. It is a condition that occurs when your gluteus medius gets inflamed and forgets to function normally.
So what you're saying that in order to keep your gluteus maximus functionist, you need to be flatulent?
I guess. Well, I don't know. Hold on. Here, wait. Here. I love this analogy for an explanation. We're going to enjoy this. If you imagine making a panini sandwich where you take high pressure and high temperature and make a grilled cheese, sitting on your glutes idea is a little like this.
Grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese with your butt. Okay, got it. How do you know if you're developing the condition? Primary sources.
If you're on a podcast and you've been sitting for 2 hours.
Yeah, if you're plopped on your desk chair for hours on end, chances are you're increasing your risk. No shit, Sherlock. Really, never would have.
Literally no shit.
Spinning for extended periods has been shown in multiple studies to have a major impact on how we contract and use our glutes effectively. Well, unless you're sitting on the can, then you're using them quite well. Okay, this is a long article. I'm not going any further. It's on the Squares of the Round Table podcast. Right. You can find out. You can find out how if you have dead butt syndrome.
Right, give us one more, Jeff, to close it out.
Okay, I'm trying to work on this. Apparently, just a few things. Apparently, the DC Birds of Prey is going to be an R-rated film. Spawn. Todd McFarlane is possibly going to talk about putting Spawn on Netflix and doing it that way. Oh, here, okay, there's a few others here. Oh, we didn't talk about Halloween. There was a vending machine apparently in New York that if you didn't like the candy you got, you could find this vending machine in New York and it would convert it to Reese's Peanut Butter Cups for free.
Like by weight?
Oh, no, just literally, okay, I have this crappy candy. I want a Reese's.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how is it pay you back? I mean, it obviously has to go by weight.
I don't think it did. I think it's you put in a candy.
Like for every piece of candy, like so much. If it's a full size Mounds or a tiny thing of Smarties.
Yeah.
Every piece per piece, not weight.
At least that's what it sounds. Hold on. If you're planning over there with your mediocre carrot candy and taffy, get there earlier. Apparently. Between the two events, they will hand out 10,000 cups. So this is sort of like a take a penny, leave a penny. If you put a penny in, you can get back a nickel.
Right, okay.
So apparently, no, it doesn't say there's. Yeah, if you wanted to do like hard candy, I get the impression you could do it.
Wow.
That's. Let's see what else we got. Bills fan. Well, because the Bears just played the Bills. Bills fan stiffs punishment after cops peg him as a dildo thrower.
Yeah, last week somebody threw a sex toy onto the field, and of course you're in a stadium where there's 50,000 cameras on every single player.
Yeah.
You're gonna get caught, just like that one guy who threw beer at that one Falcons player a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a Florida man, 34, man by the name of Michael Abdallah, was arrested for throwing a dildo on the field during the Patriots-Bills game. They squeezed him for $250 in cash or $1,000 in bond to release him from jail, and he pleaded not guilty to the charge of disorderly conduct.
But you're on camera.
You're on camera taking a dick. What's wrong with you? Really?
He's in jail. Apparently he's
going to get the shaft.
Anymore.
There's going to go to court and meet him with stiff competition.
There's a lot of jokes about jerking things around and whatnot in this piece. I'm going to leave the rest of it alone. Here, this is another story from. Here's another Halloween quick story. There was a city in North Carolina. Where is this city? The city of High Point. Oh, I know where this is. This is not far from Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill. This is High Point, North Carolina. Banned a classic Halloween candy because no one likes them. The city posted, all right, everybody, we're giving you 1 week's notice as to prepare for trick-or-treaters to remind y'all that by order of the city of High Point, Emperor of Acceptable Candy, it's a real thing. These are banned and nobody likes them. But what is it? Hold on a second. What was it that got banned? Was it hard candy? I guess it's hard candy. Hard candy got banned. The city posted on Facebook, clearly this is a joke. But yeah, that's kind of amusing. Yeah, I guess it was like the hard candies and stuff, like the crappy stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else we can throw in here. Oh, we have up on the Squares of the Roundtable podcast, for those of you who still have your Halloween candy, we have the ability to pair your different types of candy with different types of wine. So feel free to do that when you have a moment. Just so we're aware, intense reds are good with Snickers and Reese's peanut butter cups. Candy corn, we want a delicate, smooth white wine. And they have some recommendations. So you can go to the Squares table and check that out. This is kind of amusing. I guess this is a good thing. This is a good thing. That we had that hurricane a while back, and they most recently found a hot tub more than 20 miles away from where it was originally supposed to be. After the hurricane, it's still intact, and apparently it still works.
It washed up on a beach, I think it was the article.
Yeah, something like that. It was filled at the bottom of the stairs, and then it disappeared. After seeing a Facebook post, it was located more than 20 miles away on a beach on Dog Island, not a scratch on it. Amazingly, the water was still inside. There's no chance of getting the hot tub back, so he called the owners of Tropical Sports and bought a new one. Company has a new slogan, Nordic tough enough to withstand a Category 4 hurricane. But not apparently strong enough to keep it where it needs to stay. Apparently by the time we talk about this, apparently there are Democratic women who are stripping to get you to go vote. They're with a slogan of "Grab them by the ballot."
Oh, thank goodness that tomorrow all these midterms will be done. All these ads, these flyers in my mailbox. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. So
it'll be done.
There's a bar. Oh, here we go. There was a bar in Austin, Texas. Is this Austin, Texas? Austin, Texas, that redecorated itself for Halloween to look like Moe's Tavern from The Simpsons.
That's cool.
Yeah, there was that. I'm trying to go through these as fast as possible. We already talked about the hot dog thing.
Right.
I really was going to have us call the hot dog thing. I think that would have been cool. Here we go. This one needs to be talked about. Because Alabama woman is frightened after zombie teeth get stuck in her mouth.
It was a Halloween costume piece?
Apparently so. It's not Halloween yet, but one Alabama woman has already had the fright of her life. And who was planning to be a zombie for the haunting holiday and spent $3 on a pair of fake teeth for the costume. The zombie teeth attached to her regular choppers were with an adhesive, but they became unglued when she realized that the fake teeth were stuck. I was trying to remove them, but they were just too tight. They wouldn't budge. I even took a pair of wire clippers and cut the tips off of those.
Oh my God, costume dysfunction.
She couldn't eat or drink because of the teeth, but tried drinking hot coffee in hopes that the glue would loosen. Didn't work. I drew a coffee, you could say. They wouldn't budge. I'm panicking. Of course, I had a few panic attacks by this point. I tried to sleep, no sleeping. In the morning, she attempted to get out of the sticky situation by making an emergency dental appointment. They looked and pulled a little bit, and they were like, well, we're going to have to use a saw or cut off in sections or drill it off. They really didn't know what to do.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
She couldn't be numbed during the appointment because the dentist feared her
that's
teeth
rude.
pulled out by mistake. So the doctor went in, picked and pulled, and I squealed like a baby, and they got them out. Sometimes the gums could adhere to the teeth. I will, quote, I will never do it again. I will never put anything like that again in my mouth.
Nurse, give me that Dremel tool.
Yeah. Well, here's an idea. Yeah, why are you doing that to begin with? That's just me.
Playing those Dracula teeth as a kid, I never thought about using any kind of glue. I was like, no way.
We'll finish out with these. Apparently, I didn't even know these existed. Ready for this? Apparently, Pringles has a 3-pack that you can buy, in which they have the following flavors, and they're only available a certain time for a certain amount of time this year. And the 3 flavors that you can buy are for Thanksgiving. They have a turkey flavored Pringle, a stuffing flavored Pringle, and a pumpkin pie flavored Pringle.
I'll take the turkey and the stuffing.
Wait a minute, they're Pringles. Isn't there a mashed potato Pringle?
Yeah,
that's because they're potatoes already, aren't they?
Yeah, well,
mostly some of it's potato, not all of it's potato.
Yeah, not all of it.
Some of it is rice.
If you actually saw how those Pringles were made, you'd never want to eat them again.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. They will not be sold in stores. By the time this airs, they will have already started. I think they start 11:59, well, essentially 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday night. You can go to the kelloggstore.com. Supplies are limited. You cannot buy them in stores. You can buy sold as a pack of 3 of mini cans are $14.99. $14.99.
We living in an age of limited edition Pringles.
Oh my God!
What an age we live in.
Apparently, last year's chips came packaged in a TV dinner style tray with separate sections for the flavors: mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, macaroni and cheese, green bean casserole, and cream corn flavored chips were available in last year's feast. So I wouldn't buy it. $15 for 3 mini pair? No.
Well, somebody's got to pay for all that. Somebody's got to pay for all that formulation.
I guess I'm not doing it. No way. Here's the best story we can end on, ladies and gentlemen. I was about to put my resume into Under Armour. Apparently, the best perk of the job is now gone. Under Armour will no longer allow its employees to expense strip clubs on visits.
What?
The athletic company emailed employees earlier this year informing them that this practice is no longer allowed. It's part of they continue to address inappropriate behavior as it strives to create respectful and inclusive workplace. Apparently, at one point, Under Armour used to foot the bill for strip club visits for work purposes.
For schmoozing clients?
That makes sense, though. If you're talking to certain people, that makes sense. You're talking to guys, you're trying to, or certain, how is this different than why can't they just sit there and outlaw them from playing golf?
Because golf is that type of a sport where all deals are made on golf.
Yeah, well, that's where the white people are. I don't know. What if we just would it be discriminatory if they just took them to a club where there was both, like men and women? What if you did that?
Do such things exist?
Yes.
You would know.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well. Okay. So there are places that you can find that. It's rare. Yes. Sometimes it's only one day a week. Like at Indy, on a Saturday night, there was a certain gentleman's club that had both. And I'll tell you right now, the stuff that the women would be able to get away with when the men were dancing versus the stuff that men could get away with when the women were dancing. Wow. Talk about double standard.
There's a tilt.
Talk about a double standard. Wow, must be nice. I don't know. But yeah.
So Ivan, what do you got going on this week?
Well, let's see. Let me see. By the time this broadcast gets on the air, I'll be at Wax On Wax Off on Wednesday, doing a doo-wop set over at the Cobra Lounge. Then I'll be at Cafe Mustache on Saturday. To do the groovy thing after a few bands, playing some music, and then just a lot of music-related stuff. I mean, I'll be at Matters again on Friday, and tomorrow I'll be at, or should I say Tuesday, I will be at Electric Jungle, just seeing what other type of mischief I can get into music-wise. A lot of music stuff this coming up week. So, and you?
No, I got nothing on this weekend. Just raking leaves. Raking leaves and maybe some house cleaning before Thanksgiving.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, and then, of course, I have to get a showing of Bohemian Rhapsody in there sometime this week.
Yeah, definitely. You should go see it, Ivan. Just for the music.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna dig it. I'm not gonna cut it up. I'm just gonna go there and just take it in and just enjoy, going down memory lane. That'd be cool.
So what's going on with you this weekend, Jeff?
Let's see. What do I have this week? It's going to kind of be a quiet. I'm hoping it's kind of a quiet week. Might go to see Stars Born finally, but we'll see. Might see that by the time we get to the next show. Honestly, it's going to be a little bit of a quiet week, because the next 2 weekends I might have some gaming stuff to do. And then, the following week I have a presentation, the weekend of December 1st out at, Toastmasters Leadership Institute. And, I'm doing a 45-minute session on enhancing evaluations. Other than that, this week, I have been doing Facebook Lives on a regular basis every day, and you can see those.
Those are pretty cool.
You can see those on Facebook, on my Facebook page. I have been making them open to the public so far. I've been going back and making them open to everybody. So if you are hearing this, you can look me up. You can find it. You can find me through the Squares Facebook page, and you can check some of those out. If there's something that I feel that's worthwhile, I'll move it over to, that makes sense, I'll move it over to the Squares page too. But, that's kind of it in a nutshell for me. So Mike, where can they find us?
Where can they find us?
Well, we're most active on Facebook. That's Squares the Roundtable Podcast. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at SOTRT Podcast. Send us an email sotrtpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you listening on YouTube. We are also on PodBean, and that goes the other way around, too. If you're listening on PodBean, here we're on YouTube as well. Click, subscribe. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. So this being episode number 26, we've been doing this for 6 months.
Yes! Yay!
It's our half-a-versary.
Yay.
Happy half-a-versary. Happy, you know what I
Happy,
mean.
happy something or other.
Half-a-versary.
Yeah.
Hashtag War on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We'll
War on
catch you next
Thanksgiving.
time.
Thank Turkey Strong, baby.
That's right. On behalf of Jeff Stein. On behalf of Jeff Stein and Ivan Rivera.
Yay! And on behalf of Mike, for joining us here at Squares of the Round Table. See you next time out. Have a great week.